Breaking. नाम संकीर्तन की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्री प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया अद्य उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। So we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 30, titled The Activities of the Prachinas. Is it all visible to everybody on the screen? And we are reading verse number 37. Can everybody read this, or should I make it bigger? Little bigger. Is it better? Tesham vicharatam padhyam tirthanam पावनेच्छया भीतस्य किन्न रोचेत तावाकानां समागमः तेषां विचरतां पद्भ्यां तीर्थानां पावनेच्छया गीतस्य किं न रोचेत तावकानां समागमः तेषां विचरतां पद्भ्यां तीर्थानां पावनेच्छया गीतस्य किं न रोचेत तावकानां समागमः तेषां विचरतां पद्भ्यां तीर्थानां पावनेच्छया गीतस्य किं न रोचेत तावकानां समागमः
तेषां विचरतां पद्भ्यां तीर्थानां पावनेच्छया गीतस्य किं न रोचेत तावकानां समागमः
तेषां विचरतां पद्भ्यां पावनेच्छया
तेषां विचरतां पाद्यां तीर्थानां पावनेच्छया तस्य किं न रोचेत तावकानां समागमः
Mataji. Okay, what the word means? Tesham of them, Vicharatam, who travel, Padhyam, by their feet, Tirthanam, of the holy places, Pavan Ichaya, with a desire to purify, Gitasya, to the materialistic person who is always fearful. Kim, why? No, not. Rocheta, becomes pleasing. Tavakanam, of your devotees. Samagamaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Dear Lord, your personal associates, devotees, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? Perfect. There are two kinds of devotees. One is called Bhushtyanandi and the other Bhajananandi. The word Bhajananandi refers to the devotee who does not move but remains in one place. Such a devotee is always engaged in devotional service of the Lord. He chants the Mahamantra as taught by many acharyas and sometimes goes out for preaching work. The Ghoshthyanandi is one who desires to increase the number of devotees all over the world. He travels all over the world just to purify the world and the people residing in it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, Prithvite Ache Yata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Thinde Marana. Lord Chaitanya wanted his followers to move all over the world and preach in every town and village. In Chaitanya Sampradaya, those who strictly follow the principles of Lord Chaitanya must travel all over the world to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya, which is the same as the preaching the words of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. The more the devotees preach the principles of Krishna Katha, the more people throughout the world will benefit. Devotees like the great sage Narada, who travel all over to preach, are called Ghoshthyanandi. Narada Muni is always wandering throughout the universe just to create different types of devotees. Narada even made a hunter a devotee. He also made Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad devotees. Actually, all devotees are indebted to the great sage Narada, for he has wandered both in heaven and hell. A devotee of the Lord is not afraid of hell, is not even afraid of hell. He goes to preach the glories of the Lord everywhere, even in hell, because there is no distinction between heaven and hell for a devotee. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana vibhyati swarga pavarga narkeshwara apitulyatra darshinaha. A pure devotee of Narayana is never afraid of going anywhere and everywhere. For him, heaven and hell are one and the same. Srimad Bhagavatam 6.17.28. Such devotees wandering all over the world deliver those who are actually afraid of this material existence. Some people are already disgusted with material existence, being confused and frustrated by material enjoyment. And some people who are intelligent are interested in understanding the Supreme Lord. Both may take advantage of the pure devotee who travels or wanders throughout the world. When a pure devotee goes to a place of pilgrimage, he desires to purify that holy place of pilgrimage. Many sinful men bathe in the holy waters of the places of pilgrimage. They take their baths in the waters of the Ganges and Yamuna at such places such as Prayag, Vrindavan, and Mathura. In this way, the sinful men are purified, but their sinful actions and reactions remain at the holy places of pilgrimage. When a devotee comes to take his bath at those places of pilgrimage, the sinful reactions left by the sinful men are neutralized by the devotee. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani swantasthena gadadhata. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.2. Because the devotee always carries the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, wherever he goes becomes a place of pilgrimage, a holy place for understanding the Supreme Personality of God. It is therefore the duty of everyone to associate with the pure devotee and thus attain freedom from material association. Everyone should take advantage of the wandering devotees whose only business is to deliver conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swarahantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhantam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Radheshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Vanchagalvatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyascha Padinam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Srivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Nandhayate Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Om. Hare Krishna. So welcome everybody to the Sunday feast. Very happy to get in association. It is one of the most important activities in the life of congregational preaching, congregational devotees, that at least once in a week they take out time to assemble in the temple, take part in the festivities such as the Guru Puja, attend the Sunday feast lecture. This is the lifeline of the devotees, actually. Since the time I came to Krishna consciousness, I was always relishing and waiting for the Sunday feast events. And today, doesn't matter which stage of practice of Krishna consciousness I am, I still look forward for the Sunday feast. I'm very, very grateful to all the devotees who have come here. So, translation once again. Dear Lord, your personal associates, devotees, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? This is a very, very nice question. So in this verse, very nicely it has been highlighted. What is the real meaning of practice of Krishna consciousness, and what is the perfection of Krishna consciousness, and what is the easiest way to attain that perfection? So this is the section where the Prachetas are actually praying to the Lord and asking for benedictions. The Lord said, okay, you asked for some benedictions, and the Prachetas were hesitant that we have got your darshan. What other benediction do we need? We don't need anything else. Your darshan itself is unlimited. Your name, form, qualities, and pastimes are unlimited. So why should we ask for something limited now that we have got unlimited unlimited nectar through your association, through your darshan, through engagement in your devotional service. Now that you are satisfied and that your satisfaction has inundated our heart with an ocean of bliss, and now that we are floating in that ocean of bliss, why should we ask for a limited benediction? That is what the Prachetas actually told the Lord. That Nitya Nityanam Chaitana, you are eternal, you are unlimited, we are eternal. So we are happy in this unlimited exchange of rasa by the chanting of your name, fame, qualities, and pastimes. We are very happy to see you satisfied, and that is our satisfaction. So we don't want any benediction, but still the Lord always insists, please ask. So some of the benedictions, 4 verses ago, the Prachetas, they say, okay, if you want to give us some benediction, please give us the benediction that we should be able to hear your name, fame, qualities, and pastimes in the association of devotees. And we want to do this life after life. That means we are not so eager about liberation. We just want to keep hearing about you life after life. How? In the association of devotees. So, someone may say, and why should one ask for association of devotees? Okay, the answer may be okay to lead a life of healthy Krishna consciousness, rise above the modes of material nature, not commit sinful activities. Basically, get liberation from the clutches of Maya. One needs to be in the association of devotees. So one may argue that if that is the target of the Prachetas, the Lord is standing in front of them. Why are they asking for association of devotees? Why can't they ask straight away Vaikuntha Gaman or liberation from the modes of material nature? This could be a question. Now, to satisfy this question, which would arise in the minds of the students of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Prachetas said something which will pacify this question. In the next verse, the Prachetas said, even a moment's association with a pure devotee cannot be compared to being transferred to heavenly planets or even merging into the Brahman effulgence or complete liberation. For living entities who are destined to give up the body and die, association with the pure devotees is the highest benediction. So Prachetas pacified that question. They said that we don't want liberation from the clutches of Maya. We are not looking for elevation to the higher planetary systems. Neither are we interested in any kind of benediction. The only thing which we want is to hear in the association of your devotees life after life. And they very nicely highlight that the association of devotees is the highest benediction. So those who are intelligent, whenever we pray to the Lord, we should really ask for this benediction. And then they glorified in the verse number 35 and 36, they glorified the effects of hearing Krishna Katha. So 2 effects they said in verse number 35. They said, Trishnayaha prashamo. That means when somebody hears the Hari Katha and Hari Kirtan, the hankering which is there in their heart is destroyed. That means they do not hanker for anything after that. Just like they give an example, just like when a honey bee enters a parijat tree. So the honey bee is looking for nectar and variety of nectar, both. So the parijat tree can supply unlimited nectar as well as various variety. So therefore, once the honeybee enters the parijat tree, it doesn't need to go anywhere else. The search for happiness is over. Similarly, once someone achieves the lotus feet of the Lord, they don't need to go anywhere else. So therefore, all the hankering for happiness, lifetime after lifetime, which a person has, and he or she seeks it in various kinds of relationships and various kinds of pursuits, that hankering is immediately stopped. Krishnaya prashamo, when someone starts hearing Hari Katha. The next effect which happens when one hears Krishna Katha is nirvairam. One becomes non-envious. So envious is something very difficult to give up. Enviousness. Our primary offense is that we become envious of Krishna. Consciously or subconsciously, knowingly or unknowingly, knowing the fact that everybody is part and parcel of Krishna, everyone is envious of everyone. That is the status of the people in the material world. But if a conditioned soul hears hears Krishna Katha, then the enviousness leaves his heart by the mercy of the association of pure devotees. Because when they see the great saintly character of pure devotees who are completely selfless, and in this verse we read they are Ghoshtianandis, their only purpose is to travel and help others. When we see such selfless people, our heart melts. We see that there is some purpose to life which is beyond and greater than the stinking purpose which I have, for which I am existing. There is something higher to it. And when we serve such a personality who is selfless, enviousness leaves our heart, provided we hear Harikatha and Harikirtan in the association of devotees. Of course, after that, they say in the next verse, they say the next effect of Krishna Katha is no dvego, that is no fear. The fear of material existence is destroyed. In the verse, Prabhupada is quoting Narayana Parasarvena Kashchana Vidhyati Swarga Varga Narkeshva Apitulyat Darshan. So the devotees of the Lord are not afraid to take any step in the pleasure, in the service to please Krishna. They don't mind whether they have to go to Tihar jail to preach, or they don't mind if they have to go to the Times Square in New York City, where there is so many advertisements, so many flashes going on. Even if a beggar goes with some money, he will also end up buying something. That is the kind of advertisement bombardment which is happening. Whether it means to go to a nice place by the banks of River Ganges to preach, or whether it means to enter into a paying guest hostel nearby, where the rooms in itself are Amazon forests. So preachers of Krishna consciousness, they are fearless in the service of Krishna. As I speak about this, I remember the Arjunasakha pastime, where how just to please Krishna and to give happiness to Krishna, the cowherd boys, they were so fearless. They knew that this is a snake in Arjunasakha and we are entering the mouth of death. But Prabhupada writes that a devotee puts his feet on the head of death and moves from one struggle to another struggle, one obstacle to another obstacle. Padam padam yat vikam natesham. In every step there is danger. Actually, not just in every step. In between two steps also there is danger. So a devotee is fearless in that struggle. Why? Because they know that Krishna is there. They have faith in Krishna. They know that Krishna is their best well-wisher. Bhoktaram yajñatapasam sarvalok maheshwaram suvidam sarvabhutanam yatva mam shanti. So they know that Krishna, I am not in control, but Krishna is in complete control. I am not the enjoyer, but Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. I don't own anything, but Krishna owns everything. And such a person who is the supreme enjoyer, who owns everything, who controls everything, he is my best well-wisher. When you think like this, yatva mam shanti gacchati, then you don't need any life insurance or any kind of maintenance. Sorry. So that is the best life insurance. The best insurance is to put your faith in Krishna and learn to depend upon him in a practical way. So no dvego. Devotees of Krishna are fearless. Once Srila Prabhupada was asked, my dear Srila Prabhupada, you are the world Acharya, you're the savior of the whole world, you're traveling all over, liberating, delivering so many individuals, opening so many temples, you're the apostle, ambassador of the Sanatana Dharma. How do you feel? Srila Prabhupada thought for a moment and he said, I feel fearless. So no dvego. Anybody who is absorbed in Krishna Katha becomes fearless. And the last effect which they mentioned, Yatra Narayana Sakshat. Wherever this Krishna Katha is happening, Krishna is personally present. So whenever devotees sit together in a big group or a small group, clap their hands chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. In that place, Krishna manifests himself. So here right now, because we clap, because we chanted the news of Krishna, and because we are hearing Krishna Katha, Krishna is personally present. And then in today's verse, they said, Dear Lord, Your personal associates, devotees. Who are the personal associates of the Lord? Who are devotees, not Mayavadis. So, dear Lord, your personal associates, devotees, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of pilgrimage. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? It's a very nice question. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about two kinds of devotees. One is Ghoshthyanandi and one is Bhajanandi. Srila Prabhupada gives the definition of Bhajanandi as follows. The word Bhajanandi refers to the devotee who does not move but remains in one place. Such a devotee is always engaged in devotional service of the Lord. He chants the Mahamantra as taught by many acharyas and sometimes goes out for teaching. So how many of you feel to be a Bhajanandi is like sometimes devotees don't understand what it means to be. They say Bhajanandi is like a low grade position in Krishna consciousness. They say don't become a Bhajanandi. How many of you feel being a Bhajanandi is very easy? Bhajanandi, you just see what Prabhupada is saying. He sits in one place and always chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as taught by the previous acharyas. Don't you think it's wonderful to just stay in one place and chant Hare Krishna? Does it happen only with me that whenever I sit to chant, my mind tells me, get up, stop this chanting, do something else? Is it just me or is it happening with others also?
That's also present.
So we can see how difficult it is. Sometimes out of immaturity, people say Bhajanandi is like a degraded thing. Ghoshthyanandi is. So today I'm just trying to analyze both of them without taking any side. And we are just trying to present what is what based on the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. I'm not going to take any side. It is up to you to decide. So, when I was reading this definition of Srila Prabhupada, the first thing which came to my mind is that a Bhajanandi is the Sthita Prajna. So, in the second chapter, shloka number 54 of the Bhagavad Gita, the symptoms of a Sthita Prajna is being discussed between Krishna and Arjuna. Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhi sthasya keshava sthitadhihi kim prabhaseta kimma sita vrajeta kim. Arjuna is asking, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? In answer to this question, Krishna says in the next verse, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanya evatmana tushtaha sthita prajnasta dochate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which basically arise from mental concoction, and when his mind thus purified finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. In the purport of the Prabhupada will say, this consciousness is Sthita Prajna consciousness. So Bhajanandi is definitely a Sthita Prajna. Why? Because he has given up all kinds of varieties of desires for sense gratification. He is fixed up in his vow of chanting Hare Krishna. And as he continues in his vow of chanting fixed number of rounds daily without offenses, then over a period of time, his heart gets thoroughly cleansed. And after that, his heart melts. And then he starts feeling ecstasy. And then the symptoms of ecstasy are sometimes exhibited, sometimes not exhibited. And slowly and steadily, such a sadhaka, such a devotee attains perfection of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes when they speak, truth comes out of their mouth. So certainly they have given all varieties of sense gratification, which are arising from mental concoction. And when the mind is thus purified by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, they are satisfied in the self alone. And then he is a Sthita consciousness. So this is the mentality of the Bhajananandi. Let's not with immaturity say Bhajananandi is being great. No. It's not easy to be a Bhajananandi. In fact, it's not very ordinary. In fact, it's extraordinary to just sit in one place and chant. And only a Bhajananandi can be a Sthita Prajna. Or only a Sthita Prajna can be a Bhajananandi. If somebody is not actually a Sthita Prajna and artificially trying to do their bhajan alone, then whether it is 2 minutes, maybe after 2 minutes or after 2 years, it depends. Ultimately, they will get the result. So that is not a Bhajananandi. Bhajananandi is somebody who is fixed in their vow of chanting Hare Krishna, as shown by the previous acharyas, completely satisfied in himself, in that consciousness. We see the example of sages like Vishnu. So many years of austerity, alone. The definition of a yogi is that he has to be alone. Srila Prabhupada many times criticizes in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita lectures that these people making yoga societies are defeating the whole purpose of yoga. Yogi means he has to be alone. He cannot be in a society of yogis and doing yoga. Ashtanga yoga. So, Vishwamitra was doing Ashtanga yoga. So many years he did. When he heard the tinkling of the anklets and the bangles of Menka, he didn't even see Menka first. In his mind only he decided, enough. Now I'll just get up, break my meditation and engage. He didn't even see. At least Sovereign Muni saw 2 fishes painting with you. Vishwamitra Muni didn't even see that. So it's very difficult, you see, become a Bhajananandi. It's not easy. First of all, just appreciate this point that being a Bhajananandi is not something degraded, but it's something glorious. And please understand, it's not easy for conditioned souls to become that. However, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada also points out the practical advantages of being a Ghoshtiyanandi. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada says. Ghoshtiyanandi is one who desires to increase the number of devotees all over the world. He travels all over the world just to purify the world and the people residing in it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, Prithvite Ache Yata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachara Hoive. Lord Chaitanya wanted his followers to move all over the world and preach in every town and village. In Chaitanya Sampradaya, those who strictly follow the principles of Lord Chaitanya must travel. Today I was just discussing with one of my friends. I was telling that Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya are telling that those who strictly follow the principles of Lord Chaitanya must travel all over the world to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya. It means everybody should have a passport. Train tickets and flight tickets, ship tickets, cargo tickets, whatever. Must. This is a must. Don't say no to preaching opportunities in different towns and villages and countries. Must travel. It's an order. Must travel all over the world to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya, which is the same as preaching the words of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. The more the devotees preach the principles of Krishna Katha, the more the people throughout the world will benefit. And then Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Narada Muni, how he's a Ghoshtiyanandi, always wandering throughout the universe to create different kinds of devotees. He made Mrigani a devotee, he made Dhruva a devotee, etc., etc. And he was not afraid to go anywhere, everywhere. So Ghoshtiyanandi has an advantage. Being a Ghoshtiyanandi has an advantage, especially for those souls who are not yet in the stage of perfection. Ghoshtiyanandi is practical samadhi. From time immemorial, we are there in this material world under the clutches of this material nature, struggling by associating with various good and bad people, good and bad environment, thus taking birth into various species of life. So all of us have a baggage of many, many lifetimes. So it's not easy to just shake off that baggage. So the advantage of being a Ghoshyanandi is that one can get into, or one can get free of that baggage and get into practical samadhi very easily. Why? Because when one becomes a Ghoshyanandi, he engages all his senses as well as his desires in preaching purpose. The word Ghoshtya means one who mixes. So Ghoshyanandi means one who mixes with various kinds of people. How many of you think that mixing with different varieties of people is an easy job? Please raise your hand. How many of you think it's an austerity? It's actually difficult. It's easy to stay in my house, but it's difficult to go out and meet and talk to various people, listen to them and tolerate that and somehow give the book. Or somehow give them the temple card, or somehow make them chant Hare Krishna, somehow invite them to the temple. It's not easy. So, in that way, the job of Bhajananandi is little simple. He just has to associate with his own sthita pragya mind. This has already become his friend. But in case of a Ghoshyanandi, that's not the case. He has to move around, travel around. He has a desire. He has a desire to benefit everybody in this world. And he is taking the austerity of meeting various kinds of people whom he doesn't know, and whom he doesn't, and he doesn't know how they will interact and how they will respond. So there is this nice verse. Ishware tad adhineshu balisheshu dushatsusha prema maitri upopeksha yat karoti samadhi. The definition of a madhyama adhikar. What is the definition? Ishware tad adhineshu. First of all, they accept that yes, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and I am a part and parcel of Krishna, and my sole purpose of existence is to render loving devotional service to Krishna. Then balisheshu dushatsusha prema maitri upopeksha. He uses his sense of discrimination intelligence to save time while serving Krishna. So he sees that there are two kinds of people. One is the innocent class who actually wants to hear something, Bali Sheshu. And then there is another class who is Vishatsu, who doesn't want to hear, who are envious, who are basically rebellious. So he gives Prem and Maitri and Kripa to these innocent people. He gives them love. He always keeps thinking, how can I give more and more and more and more and more mercy to these innocent people? If I cannot give, how can I make them meet someone who can give them mercy? His constant endeavor is, how can I get them mercy? How can I get them kripa? How can I be a loving friend for them, which they can fall back upon in times of difficulty? And those who are envious, rebellious, I will not waste my time with them. For them, I will have upeksha. I will just move on. This means that the innocent people are actually low-hanging ripe fruits of this tree of the material world. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, shloka number 1, Krishna says, Urdhvamulam adharshakam ashwatham puravyayam chandam siyasya paranani yastam veda savedavit. So there is this very nice description of a tree. Say this material world is compared to a tree. The innocent people are the low-hanging fruits who have been cooked up by the modes of material. The modes of material nature have beaten the pulp out of them now. And now they are in a little bit low-hanging position and they are okay to hear from people. So we say always go for the low-hanging fruits. The low-hanging fruits are also ripe to some degree. They have been cooked by the sun. Samsara dava nalidhalo. The forest fire of material existence has cooked their anarthas, has cooked their samskaras, has cooked their consciousness so much so that they are, in the words of Srila Prabhupada, they are just sitting at their homes, watching the television, changing one channel from another, and looking out of the window that when will God come to save them? Prabhupada puts it like this. That preachers should go out to preach because people all around the world, they are simply waiting, looking out of the windows at the streets, when will God come and save them? They are actually waiting. So there are these kind of people, Bali Sheshu. I had a friend who took a vow that I will not eat anything which is cooked. He's not here, so I can talk about it. Sometimes devotees also take serious devotee. Something happened to him, and I will not eat anything cooked. So we were all eating whatever was being cooked, and he was sitting next to us, eating raw fruits, etc., things like that. So I asked him, why are you not eating? No, I have taken a vow that I will not eat anything which is cooked. But then I said that these fruits are cooked by the sun and the moon. And then he looked at me and he said, yeah, get the roti. Then he goes off. So we have to just understand that everything in this material nature is being cooked. However, the people who are Vishatsu, they are not sufficiently cooked until now. So the job of a Goshtyanandi is not to pluck those unripe fruits and force them to ripe in his association. That is not the job of Goshtyanandi. Let them stick there unto the tree. Let the raw laws of material nature and the karmic reactions and Krishna and other factors influence them, cook them up, beat the pulp out of them. Let that happen. And when that happens, go pluck, preach, offer it to Srila Prabhupada. So that is the idea. That is the job for Goshtyanandi. He always goes for the low-hanging, ripe fruits, that is the innocent people. He thinks so much and goes out of his way, makes various numerous schemes how to give them more and more and more mercy. Whereas he saves time while serving Krishna by not hanging around or avoiding people who are not yet ready to listen to the message of Krishna. Upeksha. So that is the concept of a Goshtyanandi. I repeat, it is not the duty of a preacher to grab the unripe fruits from the tree of this material world before they are ripe and try to give them their association. That is the job description of an Uttamadhikari. Uttamadhikari can do that, not a Madhyamadhikari. So, this is the great, exciting life of a Goshtyanandi. The best example for Goshtyanandi is Narada. He just goes from one place to another place and he changes the entire atmosphere wherever he goes. There is this incident in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj becoming upset when his father Uttanapad didn't let him sit on his lap, and his mother said some harsh things, mean things to him. He felt bad. How can Mother Suruchi speak like this? And he goes to his mother. Mother directs him to the one forest for finding Krishna. He was very serious and sincere and determined to find Krishna. And then he started doing his austerities after meeting Narada Muni, who gave him direction that go to Madhuvan and do these austerities and pray in such way. It is said that when Dhruva Maharaj was fixed up in the Sthita Prajna consciousness and he was fully engaged in the process of Bhakti Yoga, at one point of time he completely he gave up the complete conception of his material body, so much so that he closed the 9 gates of his body, so much so that he stopped breathing. And when he stopped breathing, the universal breathing got choked. That means nobody in the universe was being able to breathe. In the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada says that one pure devotee can influence the whole universe due to his intense meditation on the Lord. One pure devotee. You don't need 15 lakh. You need just one pure devotee with with his intense meditation on the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna can influence the whole universe. So similarly, one person with purity of heart, when they take up the occupation of a Ghoshyanandi and they go out, they can affect the heart of so many people. And they can change the consciousness of so many people. Because the people will get attracted to the purity of conduct and the purity of purpose with which that Ghoshyanandi is traveling and trying to teach. Purity is very attractive. If someone is pure in their conduct, that means they are sincerely following the instructions of the acharyas. And if somebody is pure in their purpose, that means the reason why which they are trying to do some business is not for their own self, but for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. Both are needed. Simply purity of conduct is also not very appealing. Even a strict follower of the Mayavad philosophy is pure in his conduct. Doesn't attract much. But even if somebody is not very pure, they can borrow purity from the acharya. They can borrow the purity of purpose from the acharya and can attract many people. So both purity of course, if you have purity of conduct, then your effect is more. The purity of conduct and purity of purpose with which one pure-hearted soul who is traveling through the emanation of his purity can transform the lives of so many people. We just need one such person. Imagine if we become thousands of such people, we will actually be delegated to thousands of such universes. I'm not just joking, it is possible. Dhruv Maharaj alone choked the whole universal being. Just imagine. People, the demigods went to Brahma and ultimately to Lord Krishna to ask, what's going on? Is it some other demon, another demon? And then Lord Krishna says, no, it's just my devotee. Son of a tongue. I'll go and I'll pacify. And he knows how to pacify. So one pure devotee can do this. Again, later on in the fourth canto itself, Prithu Maharaj says, the words of a pure devotee touches the vibration. The vibration of a pure devotee touches the saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of Krishna. And then it moves and acts in a particular way, so much so that one can experience this in their heart. So the pure devotees, when they speak, meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna, their sound vibration actually goes and touches the saffron dust particles from the lotus feet of Krishna. And that sound vibration carries that saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of Krishna. And when anybody hears it, it penetrates deep into their heart and cuts the hridaya granthis or the knots of attachment and purifies them and uplifts them into Vaikuntha consciousness. That's how pure devotees work. Their meditation on Krishna is so intense, and with a desire to please Krishna and Guru when they speak, it creates a lot of difference. Such a person is a Ghoshyanandi. Because other than achieving perfection for himself, he is constantly thinking, how can I give this perfection to others? Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the Times Square in New York, and when he saw the mad rush of cars and vehicles and people, he started crying. He had tears in his eyes. And he said that what is the need to lead such a life? Any ordinary conditioned soul who will go there, they will say, wow, so much development is there. Just see the cars, just see the roads, just see the people, just see their dress. That's what I saw when I went for that. I'm very unfortunate. For the first time when I went out of India, I went to Boston. But that time I was not in Krishna consciousness. And I saw all these things. I saw the cars, I saw the dresses, I saw the people, I saw the buildings. And I was amazed. I took so many photos. But Prabhupada, when he went for the first time to Boston and then later to New York, he saw something else. That is called Ghoshyanandi consciousness. Of course, at that time, I was not So Ghoshyanandi will organize the scheme of events in such a way that maximum number of people around the world, around the universe, will get complete advantage of that saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of Krishna. Saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of Krishna are a property of the lotus feet of Krishna. Only the pure spiritual sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra can carry it from the lotus feet of Krishna to someone's heart. And only a pure Ghoshyanandi can provide that via medium. Otherwise, that saffron dust particle, that mercy of Krishna is almost inaccessible to us. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also always did this when he went to Ramkeli. It's a very nice incident. Constant kirtan was going on. All kinds of people were coming to see him. Boys were coming to see him. Girls were coming to see him. Old men were coming to see him. Kids were coming to see him. Devotees were coming to see him. Atheists were coming to see him. Hindus were coming to see him. Muslims were coming to see him. Even the animals were coming to see him. And then at that place there was a Yavana king. So the minister of that Yavana king actually saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was singing and dancing. And all the people around him were almost instantaneously affected by that same Ghoshyanandi consciousness, by the same saffron dust particle mercy consciousness. So this minister went and reported to the king, I'm not understanding what's happening. And the king asked, who is this person? He says that this person looks like a saint to me, but in terms of beauty, he's defeating the beauty of millions of cupids. His hands are as long and reaching until his knees, and his eyes are as beautiful as the lotus petals. And when he dances, I forget my own life. And anybody who is around him, whether he's a Hindu or a Muslim, or a kid or an adult, or a boy or a girl, or a lower class or an upper class, everybody is completely immersed in chanting Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Such is the effect of a Ghoshyanandi. And when he went and reported to the king like that, king called one of his ministers, who was also very pious, and asked him, who is this? So the minister was very careful. He didn't want to disturb the meditation of Lord Chaitanya. So he said, he just downplayed Lord Chaitanya. He said, he's just a tourist, wandering beggar who has come here. He doesn't own anything, he doesn't have anything. He'll just pass by, you don't worry, nothing, not sufficiently important a subject matter for you to look into. Just relax, go to your place and do whatever you want to do. But then the king became angry at this. He said that, don't speak to me like this. I can understand that this person is the same person whom the Vedas call as Krishna and whom the Quran calls as Khuda. And I can understand one point, that I am a king and I have so many people working for me. But if I don't pay them for 2 months, then there will be a rebellion against me. Probably they'll come and murder me for salary. But here is a person whom, in your words only, who doesn't have even 1 penny, who is a wandering mendicant tourist. But what I hear is that thousands and thousands of people are surrendering their lives to him without any money. So how can you say he's just a wandering tourist? He's certainly Krishna, he's certainly Khuda. And then the ministers sensed that, okay, maybe the king wants to go and meet him. So he sent a secret messenger, a Brahmana, with some other servants also, to inform Chaitanya that you please move out of this place very soon. So when that Brahmana goes to inform Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu calls him, oh, you chant Hare Krishna. And the Brahmana forgets the purpose why he came. He was not able to inform Lord Chaitanya. He also started chanting Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The servants of the Brahmana tried to inform Lord Chaitanya. They also started chanting Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So in this way, nothing was happening. only Kirtan was happening. It went on for days. But Lord Chaitanya understood, being Paramatma, he understood what was there in the minds of the devotees. And he pacified them later on. Such is the influence of the Goshtyan. Any sincere follower of Lord Chaitanya can create this influence. Any sincere follower of Srila Prabhupada can have even a bigger influence than this, provided sincerely surrendered to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya. It simply depends the degree to which one Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda want to empower a particular soul. So in the purport of the verse, Narayana Parasarve Kashtana Bhikhyati, Srila Prabhupada writes very beautifully how Goshtyanandis are so much dedicated to the purpose of Lord Krishna. He says something very important. Srila Prabhupada says, the personality of Godhead is omnipresent by his diverse potencies everywhere, just as the power of electricity is distributed everywhere within the space. Similarly, Lord's omnipresence is perceived and manifested by his unalloyed devotees like Vidura, just as electricity is manifested in an electric bulb. I don't know how Prabhupada gets such examples. Electricity is there everywhere, but it is manifested through an electric bulb. So the Krishna is omnipresent everywhere, but we can perceive his presence in the heart of pure devotees, Tirthi Pravanti Tirtha, who are purifying a particular Tirtha by their presence. A pure devotee like Vidura always feels the presence of the Lord everywhere. He sees everything in the potency of the Lord and the Lord in everything. The holy places all over the earth are meant for purifying the polluted consciousness of a human being by an atmosphere surcharged with the presence of the Lord's unalloyed devotees. If anyone visits a holy place, he must search out the pure devotees residing in such holy places and take lessons from them. Try to apply such instructions in practical life and thus gradually prepare oneself for ultimate salvation, going back home, back to God. To go to some holy place of pilgrimage does not mean only to take bath in the Ganges or Yamuna or to visit the temples situated in those places. One should also find a representative of Vidura who have no desire in life save and except to serve the personality of God. This is one of the primary qualifications of a Goshtyan. He has no other desire other than serving Guru and Krishna, and he wants more and more number of people to take benefit of this Krishna consciousness. That is one very important qualification of Goshtyan. The personality of Godhead is always with such pure devotees because of their unalloyed service, which without any tinge of fruitive action or utopian, speculation. They are in the actual service of the Lord, specifically by the process of hearing and chanting. And he goes on to glorify them very, very nicely. So these are the actions of the Goshtyanandis. The Panchatattva. Now Goshtyanandis, they face some difficulties. Unlike the Bhajanandi. He doesn't face, the only difficulty for the Bhajanandi is his mind, which he has already controlled and captured by the mercy of Krishna. So he is in a Sthita Prajna consciousness. But a Goshtyanandi, despite being in Sthita Prajna consciousness, faces some difficulties. Best example is the Sankirtan, which happened in Shiva's Angan. Many nights they did Kirtan in the Angan of Shiva's Thakur. And then they decided one day, the Panchatattva decided one day, let's go out. And then what happened? They called the cops. They broke the minimums. Similarly, when devotees also go out on the streets to do some Sankirtan, there are many obstacles. So therefore, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the Chid Sharira is nourished by the Chid Rakta. That means the spiritual body is nourished by the spiritual blood. And then he explains in his teachings what is the meaning of spiritual blood. The difficulties which a Goshtyanandi or a devotee or a preacher goes through while preaching the mission of Lord Chaitanya, the degree to which one can tolerate those difficulties The tolerance of those difficulties is directly proportional to the amount of spiritual blood which one has. I'll explain in very simple terms. Suppose you went out for book distribution. You stood for 2 hours. You approached 40 people. All of them said no. Good. Your spiritual blood has increased. It has really increased. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada says that spiritual blood means to tolerate and still go on preaching. So, therefore, Koshtyanandi has this practical samadhi-like advantage. Is that when he goes out and meets people, very quickly he develops perfection in Krishna consciousness. This is not possible for any other category of people. This is only possible for Koshtyanandi. Why? Because when a Koshtyanandi goes out and meets, takes the austerity of meeting various kinds of people, he puts his own faith to test. And he himself is forced to chant more sincerely, and he himself is forced to read the books of Srila Prabhupada more scrutinized. This challenge is there only in front of Koshtyanandi, not in front of anyone else. So therefore, his spiritual blood goes on increasing. So very quickly, a Koshtyanandi attains perfection. If you go around the world, rice is the staple food everywhere. And if you actually find out what is the next most staple food, I'm not just talking about India, but the whole planet in general, it's beans. So number 1 is rice, number 2 is beans, various kinds of beans. So rice is very good, people are sustaining their health by rice. Beans is also very good, people are sustaining their health by various kinds of beans. And when you mix rice and beans both, according to the cookbook of Yamuna Mataji, 43% more nutrition. So similarly, when somebody combines the hearing and chanting along with the distribution of this Krishna consciousness, that is called as super Krishna consciousness. I don't know how much percent more nutrition as such, but definitely. Along with your practice of Krishna consciousness, if one can go out and distribute this Krishna consciousness, then their spiritual blood will go on increasing, and very quickly their Chid Sharira will be nourished by the Chid Rakta, and very soon they'll be able to experience the saffron dust particles of Krishna, this lotus feet, and very soon they'll be able to give that experience to others also. So therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada used to say, go door to door and preach. He used to say his sannyasis in the Gaudiya Math, say to his sannyasis, that every day you should go out and knock at least 3 doors and try to preach to them. Doesn't matter if they hear you or if they don't hear you. When they will see you, at least they will think sometime in the day, oh, today I saw that sannyasi. He was telling me something, I didn't hear what he said. Maybe if I meet him next time, I'll just ask, when is the next Ekadashi? And start the conversation. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted. In fact, Srila Prabhupada also forced his disciples to go out and preach, go out and distribute the books, go out and do the prasadam distribution, go out and do the Harinam. Why? Because he wanted the spiritual blood of all his disciples to grow very quickly, because he wanted all the disciples to attain that practical samadhi, engage all their service senses in the service of Krishna, combine this purity which they achieve by chanting Hare Krishna with the act of giving this purity to others, thereby making the whole world a pure place where Krishna comes and resides. So one can practice Krishna consciousness very nicely in that way. This is called as Krishna conscious yoga. Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvan apina libyate. Bhagavad Gita chapter 5 shloka number 7. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So this is the concept of Goshtyanandi. and the Bhajananandi, which Srila Prabhupada has expressed in this verse, and he has expressed his desire that the pure followers of Lord Chaitanya should become Goshtiyas. They must go to different parts of the world and preach. And that is what the Acharyas want. And success in spiritual life means keep looking for opportunities when you satisfy the desires of the Acharyas. So Prabhupada says everyone should take advantage of the wandering devotees whose only business is to deliver the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. So there is no lack of ripe fruits in the world. Wherever you go, you'll be amazed to see that there are always some people who are ready to heal. In some places more, in some places less, doesn't matter. But there will always be opportunities for preaching. There will always be opportunities for giving Krishna consciousness to everybody. So let's get into the practical samadhi. Let's get into our family business of being a Goshtyanandi. And let's become pure by chanting Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
And thereby increase our spiritual blood by giving this purity to others. Pleasing Srila Prabhupada, pleasing Lord Chaitanya. With that, I would like to conclude today's discussions. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? There are 2 mics here. Okay, you ask the question and repeat the question. But we have only 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Thank you for your class. Like you were explaining, Bhajananandi is Sthit Pragya. So Goshtyanandi is not the Sthit Pragya. They are also good devotee. Narati, we can take example.
I never said that Goshtyanandi. The question is, I said Bhajananandi is a Sthit Pragya. So a doubt came that maybe Goshtyanandi is not a Sthit Pragya. No, both Bhajanandis and Goshtyanandis are Sthit Pragyas. But Goshtyanandi is little more than a Sthit Pragya. A Bhajanandi is very immersed in chanting Hare Krishna as explained by the previous acharyas. And Prabhupada says sometimes he goes out and preaches. Sometimes. But a Goshtyanandi is also immersed in chanting Hare Krishna as instructed by the previous acharyas. He is becoming pure by following the instructions of the previous acharyas. At the same time, he carries that anxiety of the previous acharyas in his heart, because of which he moves around preaching. And because of that, his spiritual blood increases and he achieves the perfection of Krishna consciousness very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. And that speed may not be the same in case of Bhajananandi. May or may not be. It depends on Krishna. We cannot say that one needs 10 years to become a pure devotee. It can happen at any time. But there is more probability or there is more certainty in the life of a Goshtyanandi who takes the austerity of meeting various people and trying to give Krishna consciousness to them, testing his own faith, being forced to read the books of Srila Prabhupada more scrutinizingly. There is more opportunity for him to increase his spiritual blood and thereby transcend the stage of Sthita Pragya and get into the Vaishnava or the Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Nishant, you have a question?
So, very nice class where you explained the importance of preaching in the Prabhupada context. So my question was like you told about the Madhyam Adhikari so that he should preach to the innocent people and he should ignore the envious ones. And Prabhupada says even a Uttam Adhikari has to come to Madhyam Adhikari for preaching. He has to distinguish between people. So then what about the envious people? We just have to wait for them to, like after many lifetimes they will somewhere get frustrated and come to Krishna. Who will preach?
See, the question is what will happen to the envious people? The question is Madhyam Adhikaris, they don't spend time 20 minutes with a person who really doesn't want to hear the message of Jesus. In fact, they say that, okay, it's more beneficial to touch 20 other people maybe who want to. And the next part of the question is that an Uttam Adhikari also has to come down to the level of a Madhyam Adhikari to preach. Otherwise, his pure intentions of giving mercy indiscriminately will be misunderstood. It will be misunderstood. Just like Nityananda Prabhu's way of preaching is sometimes misunderstood. He gives mercy to everybody. So, what will happen to the envious people? So, the point which I was making in the lecture is that as Madhyam Adhikaris, one need not worry or one need not take the responsibility of the envious people. Krishna is there, the laws of material nature are there, the karmic reactions are there. Everybody will be cooked over a period of time. And then Krishna will make sure, because Krishna loves everybody. He loves everybody. He loves even the envious people. And he will make some arrangement for them to come in touch with some selfless devotees by the mercy of whom their hearts will. Just like Mrigari, he was a very envious person. He was so envious that he used to half kill the animals. But when he came in touch with Narad Muni, because of the powerful devotional presence of Narad Muni, and because he did not give earlier in the purport, it is written that first when he saw Narad Muni, he wanted to give slangs to Narad Muni. But somehow he controlled himself. So that became a service. Yeah, he respected a saint. And Krishna took that opportunity to invest the devotional consciousness in the heart of Mrigari so that he became inspired to hear Narad Muni break the bow and surrender his life to him. So let's not worry about the envious people. Krishna is there. He will create some opportunity. Of course, there are some Uttam Adhikaris. Uttam Adhikaris, of course, they come in the behavioral category of Madhyam Adhikari to preach. But essentially, the Uttam Adhikari can preach to envious people. Like Srila Prabhupada encountered various envious people also and made them devotees. But only Prabhupada can do that. So certainly there is a good plan for envious people. There are Uttam Adhikaris who are acting like Madhyam Adhikaris, but they do not differentiate between envious people and non-envious people. They give their mercy to everyone. But Madhyam Adhikaris, because they are not up to the platform of Uttam Adhikari, they should be more productive in their service to Krishna by not wasting time with Madhyam Adhikaris for whom Krishna already has a plan. Does this answer your question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. First of all, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful lecture. And personally, I got the learning in terms of depth of knowing what is Goshanandi, what is Krishnanandi. And obviously, in our usual talks, we always consider Goshanandi to be the superior one and Bhajanandi is like stay away. But you gave a very different perspective today, which really shows that how much we should be reading Shastras and understanding the depth than having the superficial information about things. The question from my end is you very nicely mentioned about Goshanandi that one of their duties is to go and preach around the world. And even if it's about, as you mentioned, that you at least should knock 3 doors, even though the response comes or doesn't come. Today, in our congregation, our association, we are saying that you and me had discussed last week also that there are so many less leaders out there today and a lot of so-called followers. Looking at your instruction probably given, shouldn't it be like everybody should get into the preaching mode? The difficulty we see today is that we start looking at our superficial self. If you are not eloquent speaker, or if you are not somebody who is effectively knowing, comfortable as call it extrovert, then in those categories the features are put as called leader or not leaders. Rather than thinking that way, as per your instruction probably that anybody should go and the first thing they should do is like preach outside, but the response comes or doesn't come. It could be also that because there are a lot of opportunities there to become leaders, but everybody might be taking different services in a lower sense, but not going in the preaching mode. So is that something probably we should encourage more to everybody? It doesn't matter whether they are coming in a category of so-called material leadership or not, this and that. Any thoughts on it?
So the question is that should or should not everybody get into the preaching mode? Is preaching all about the art of effective communication? Or can those people who are not very candid and expressing themselves, can they also preach? What is preaching all about? And should or should not everybody get into the preaching? Did I get your question right? Srila Prabhupada wanted all his followers to do three things. Number one, he wanted everyone to chant Hare Krishna. Number two, he wanted everybody to try to read his books. If they cannot read, then at least hear his books being read. And number three, he wanted everybody to try to preach. Because when we go out to preach, there is a very obvious ingredient which is there in preaching, which is rejection or failure. And that is very essential for a devotee to come to the understanding that it's Krishna who is doing everything. That's why I mentioned in the talk also that those devotees who go out and preach, they very quickly are able to achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness, because the amount of rejections which they face, the amount of test which their own faith is put into, and the amount of force which is put on them by the circumstances to read the books of Prabhupada and have a high sadhana, that helps them to progress very fast and get the mercy of the acharyas very fast. So this is very necessary in the life of every youth. So everybody should try to preach. Now preaching essentially doesn't mean sitting on the Vyasasana and giving a class. Preaching means having the non-duplicitous urge within oneself via which there is a desire to do something via which someone may want to come closer to Guru or Krishna. It can mean assisting a preacher. It can mean doing nice deity worship, seeing which a person may want to come next time again. It can mean cleaning the temple nicely so that as soon as someone enters, they feel, oh, this place is good, I want to come here again. The Prabhupada would say that preaching is done in various ways. Various ways. But again and again, he highlighted that the best way to preach is to distribute my books. Basically, he was telling, let me preach. I'm speaking in the books, let them read my books and let them become pure devotees. So let me do the preaching, you go and distribute it. So definitely all devotees should try to preach in their own capacities. Somebody will be preaching like Narad Muni, somebody will be preaching like Parikshit Maharaj, big preachers, great preachers, Mahabharata preachers, somebody will be preaching like the Nav Yogendras, somebody will be preaching like Lord Shiva to the Pratyeka. So different people will preach in their own style. Somebody can attract people to the chanting of Hare Krishna by doing a very nice kirtan. It's also preaching. Somebody can attract people. So the main aim of preaching is somehow make the mercy of Krishna accessible to everyone. So definitely one should analyze what is their nature of engagement in Krishna consciousness. Another thing which has saved me so many times in my so-called preaching career is that I always ask myself, what is something which I relish? And my idea of preaching is that if there is anything in Krishna consciousness which I'm relishing, I will just go and do it in front of people and the people will be also able to relish. If I relish speaking from the Bhagavad Gita, let me just do it. If I relish just closing my eyes and doing kirtan, let me do it. That is not preaching. So when with a pure intention and a pure conduct, when I try to present Krishna as it is, simultaneously experiencing Krishna myself, that is called preaching. And that can be done in unlimited ways. So we should try to encourage the devotees to become pure in their practice of Krishna consciousness and exhibit in front of the world whatever they are relishing. And that will be the best way to preach. It can be through classes, it can be through kirtans, it can be through cooking, it can be through harinam, it can be through prasadam distribution, it can be through various ways. But definitely every devotee should get into the footsteps of a Goshthanandi. Every devotee, every day, every moment should desire that how can I bring more souls to the lotus feet of Krishna today. Definitely this anxiety should be there. In one conversation, Srila Prabhupada was asked by one of the disciples that Prabhupada having the anxiety that, oh, my rounds are not finished, oh, I have not read the books today, oh, I have not done my services today. This is spiritual anxiety, right? Prabhupada said, no. This is an instruction to you. You have to do it. You are worried about your own security in Krishna consciousness. So this anxiety is not a spiritual anxiety. The anxiety which Mother Yashoda had, whether Krishna has been bitten by some monkey or whether Krishna has eaten or that is spiritual anxiety. So after fulfilling the instructions or after fulfilling your basic duties in Krishna consciousness, the anxiety which you take on behalf of the Guru Parampara, that is called spiritual anxiety. And not just sitting in my house and wondering, oh, my rounds are not over, oh, I have not read 42 pages of Bhagavatam today. That is a good anxiety to have, but not specifically spiritual anxiety in the words of Shiva. Because that pertains to our own security and stability in Krishna consciousness and not for the pleasure of Krishna. The desire to come out of the clutches of material nature is central there, and the pleasure of Krishna is not necessary. So therefore, everybody should, when they try to think, okay, what do I relish in Krishna consciousness? And how can I give it to others? If everybody can get into this consciousness and if we can encourage everybody to do what they like in Krishna consciousness and attract many, many people to Krishna through it, I think that will be the best way to encourage everybody to preach. This is my limited understanding. You'll have more solutions. Okay, so we will end today's discussion here. Okay.
Wonderful class, very left. The question I have here is like, with this material body, we have a very close relationship with parents or children, and we are attached. And when we see them not taking up to Krishna consciousness up to the level, or not at all taking to the Krishna consciousness, actually hurts. Like when you're saying that Vajnana and we should not pluck the unripened fruit.
Question.
Should not pluck the unripened fruit. We can understand that we should not do that. But then we personally feel very much. I may be speaking at a very low level, but yeah, it is very easy when it comes to so not really bodily contact to us. Okay, they are not taking up. We will wait for. I mean, they would get a time and they would come. But when it comes to so-called our own people, which is their body, we actually feel very much pain. Other than waiting, what else we can do for them?
So the question is, it's a little simple to say that you go out and preach, and when people don't listen to you, you wait for them to become ripened enough to listen to you. But when we see the same non-reception happening in our own family, especially people with whom we have a bodily relationship, when we see that we want them to become serious in Krishna consciousness and they are not becoming, then it pains a lot. What should we do? Should we just wait? Should we do something extraordinary? Maybe senior devotees here to add to my answer. Every living entity is a Swatantra Jiva. In English, they say you can take the horse to the lake, but you cannot force the horse to drink water. So, of course, when we meet the people on the streets, we try to preach to them, we face the rejection, we feel bad that they have not listened to the message of Krishna. We feel bad they didn't take a book. But then when we come back, we go ahead with life. But then these family members, they are standing in front of us daily. We are seeing that daily I'm trying to please and they are daily not listening. We have to understand that certain family members come in our life to purify us. We get a particular kind of spouse or a particular kind of child for our own purification. That is also Krishna's way to increase the spiritual blood of a person and tolerance of a person. That is also Krishna's way to make one understand that, see, until unless I as the Paramatma do not inspire them from within your heart, it doesn't matter if they have taken birth from your womb. They have not become devotees. So therefore, it is very much necessary to go through this experience in a family where relatives, our own bodily extensions, they purify us in various ways. And it's very necessary to go through. That is essential for our own purification in Krishna consciousness. That's the first thing which I understand. And the second thing which I understand is one should be incessant in their prayers. The more one is more concerned about their own bodily connections and less concerned about the whole world, the more they will suffer in that bodily consciousness. So therefore, one should try to preach, one should pray. Definitely one should pray. But why just pray for the family members? Pray for everything. In that way, our horizon of activities or our horizon of anxiety increases. We will say that, okay, hundreds of people are not listening to us. Our family is also not listening. What's the big deal? But if we are focused only on the bodily extensions, I'm trying from last 20 years to preach to my family, Prabhu. I never went for book distribution. I never went for any preaching engagement outside my family. But from last 20 years, I'm simply focused on my family and they have not become devotees. Then it's very painful. It's very painful. So only when Krishna wants, they'll become devotees. We cannot actually preach to our family. Only through our behavior we can preach to our family. When they see that we are sensitive enough to them, at the same time practicing our own Krishna consciousness in a very determined way, when Krishna wants, they'll become inspired and ultimately they'll follow. Just like Prabhupada's books, someone may take and someone may not read them for 10 years, but the fact that the Prabhupada books are there in the house, sooner or later, someone will become it. So the fact that you are practicing Krishna consciousness in your family, sooner or later, somebody in your family will remember that there was a saintly devotee in my family. Let me try to walk into their footsteps. And one has to get purified in the saintly association of their family members and pray for them, continue to pray for them, but at the same time pray for the rest of humanity also. That's the only way I see. We can't teach much to family members. Only through our behavior we can teach. Whenever Krishna wants, they will take. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I would like to thank all the devotees for joining us on this feast. And let's thank His Grace Arjunasakha for wonderfully narrating, emphasizing, and inspiring this beautiful example. What is preaching and how to preach, and the fire that we should have within us to share this Krishna Katha, how we can release this Krishna consciousness and how we can share this Krishna consciousness. So let's thank Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So we are also very fortunate to have with us Ramapriya Govinda Prabhuji from Tirupati. So he's a priest there. So we're very fortunate. So let's welcome Prabhuji by loudly chanting Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol. He's always there to help, guide, to assist, to serve in any way. If anybody would like to visit Tirupati, so they can contact Prabhuji and he will be happy to have. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for coming and blessing our humble center. Anybody has any questions? Okay, if anybody would like to have any questions, Prabhuji, you can ask. Contact Prabhuji or facilitate you or say for home programs and so on, how to organize it. So we'll be happy to have. And also I see Vajradurga Mataji would like to welcome Mataji as well to our center by loudly chanting Hari Bol. Anybody is here for the first time to our center? Okay, I see our Prabhuji. Okay, Sunday feast, he has come. Our Gopi Prabhu and Sarat Prabhu is here. Yeah, what is his name? You can come forward and you can just receive a gift from us. Yeah, please come. So let's welcome all these devotees by loudly chanting once again Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol. Anybody from Mataji side here for the first time? No? Hare Krishna. So we have also some special announcement today. Today is a birthday boy. So before going to the birthday boy, so just like to remind the devotees that we have a Siksha ceremony on 11th of June. So I believe the devotees have already registered for it. Just a reminder. So please, Uddha, please come forward. And so today is okay. He's really looking forward to it. Can you organize this? He's son of our uncle Prabhu, and Prabhuji and Mataji, they have been serving our center so sincerely over so many years. And this is a token of gift from Prabhupada. Let's pray for Uddhav, so that whatever he has heard from Krishna and his parents, he can share with everybody the message of Krishna. Right, Uddhav? Yes. Yes, you have to. Yeah, you'll be trained by Prabhupada. And that's what we'll pray. So let's pray at the lotus feet of Prabhupada and all our Guru Parampara to shower the choicest blessings upon Uddhav so that he can be a real commander in Prabhupada's army. Let's pray. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. So first we should pronounce the Arjuna, then we will go for the Krishna. Okay. Okay, we'll directly go ahead because it's already getting late. So just chant. Can you please repeat?